G'day to all my friends and family, and welcome to this episode of Jim's 5am Club. In case you're wondering where I am today, I'm at the Anchorage Hotel, the Anchorage Marina up here at Port Stephens, which is situated, I think, at Salamander Bay or Corlett. I don't know exactly the location within the bay, but it's around Salamander Bay and it sits between Soldiers Point and Nelson Bay. And what we have here is we have a boutique hotel. It was a Peppers hotel back in the 90s when it first opened up, and it is one of the most beautiful places to visit and stay in New South Wales, something which is highly recommended and something which is unique in terms of a hotel experience. Place at this idyllic location up here at Port Stephens. Sadly, it's a little bit overcast today. Today is going to be an opportunity, or was going to be an opportunity, to see a full moon rising over in the east. But from what I can see, there's wind blowing in and there's clouds all over there on the eastern horizon, which I guess means that at 8:16 when the full moon rises, we're not going to get an opportunity to see the full moon rise, nor are we going to get an opportunity to enjoy a sunset in the west, which happens at about 7:41. But this is an ideal location here to enjoy a sunset, because the sunset happens across water and it happens over there. And I saw a couple of ladies enjoying a drink at the bar yesterday with a bottle of wine and watching the magical sunset. But you've got to pick your days, of course, and not every day, in Australia at least, is a perfect sunny day. Very different from how things are in, say, Greece, for example, where summer is summer and every day virtually feels as if there's not a cloud in the sky and it's a perfect day. Anyway, what we'll do today is we'll go on a walk and talk, and I'll just walk through the marina here and add another video to the series, the ongoing sub-series that I'm putting together, entitled All That I've Ever Learned from Tony Robbins Over the Years. And it's a special tribute series that I'm putting together of 365 videos, one a day, where I walk and talk and I capture all the lessons that I've learned from the big man Tony Robbins over the years, given that I have been to not one but three of his UPW seminars, as early as 95 and 96, and I was able to top up this year in 2023, where he held his last live UPW here in Sydney. And I've also indulged in his books, Waken the Giant Within and Unlimited Power, where I've gone through those books and learnt as much as I could, reading them over and over again, underlining them, and putting lots and lots of notes and highlights throughout the books. And I've also had the pleasure of listening to his tape series, Power Talk 1 and Power Talk 2, which once again was very, very beneficial to me as a young man, as a young executive when I was growing up. And I remember looking forward to finishing work or leaving home first thing in the morning to listen to his tapes and absorb his learnings and to try and learn, as I said, as much as I can, and to incorporate his learnings into my actions and get to the point where I am today, where I can talk about Anthony Robbins and be an emissary, be a messenger, where I can take the lessons that he was able to pass on and to take those lessons and to pass them on to other people. As you can see, this resort here, the anchorage is most beautiful. The buildings are just unique. The colours are beautiful. They're relaxing, and it is a beautiful place to come and visit. So what I want to do today on this walk and talk, on this special walk and talk on this afternoon, this is my fourth vlog that I'm doing today, given that I'm away from Sydney and I'm up here at Nelson Bay, and I've got the time to relax, I've got the time to reflect. I want to go through something that Anthony Robbins said at the recent UPW, something that he said back in 95 as well, and 96, and something that he highlights in his books and his tapes. And Anthony Robbins talks about orchestrating and designing an extraordinary life, and what the secret is in order to have an extraordinary life. And he makes a very, very valid point, and he keeps it very simple as well. And he says that if you want to live an extraordinary life, then what you need to do is to raise your standards. Not only do you need to raise your standards, you first need a baseline and a benchmark of standards to start from. And the standards that we have in our lives can come from various places and people. For those enough who are lucky to have two parents, a father and a mother, who have stuck together, have stayed united over the years, then that becomes the basis for most people where the standards start from. So your mother and father, your grandparents, your uncles, your aunts, your family is usually the place where a lot of the standards are established, because we end up learning a lot of our standards from our immediate surroundings. So proximity is power, and as we're saying here, that if you want to tap into the standards that you have, then the first place to look is your family, your parents and your close family, your extended family, because they are the source, they are the repository of standards. And it's important to have good, strong standards to start from. And for many families, the standards come and are established and infused culturally. So different cultures have standards that they live by. standards that define them, standards that have stood the test of time, are pressure tested in good times and bad times across generations. And we need to look to our culture. We need to look to our families, to our family units. We need to look to our religion, because for my family, for example, the cornerstone of the standards that we live up to are the religion that we have, the Christian religion, the Greek Orthodox Church, which basically sets the benchmark for everybody to try and follow, to try and emulate, and try and live by. And it's important to make that point, I think, early in the piece, in this vlog here, because with the advent of modernity, a lot of modern families tend to shy away and move away from their religious and their Christian roots, and thereby we have one of the key issues that many people face these days when it comes to trying to live an extraordinary life. Because a lot of people seem to think that an extraordinary life comes with making lots of money, with travelling places, with doing things which, with ticking boxes in terms of places I've been, things I've done, social media pages that I've uploaded, and the number of social media friends that I have. But the bottom line is that all of that we learn over time is simply a facade, and not all that real after all. Certainly they create competition. Having social media does make life more competitive, because everybody tries to outdo each other. But that level of competition, or that level of comparison and contrasting, is quite empty when it's all said and done, because it's not sustainable. Because the things that you see on social media are only a snapshot of who a person really is, and not necessarily a true representation of who they are, of who they represent, of what values they have, and what triggers them and what influences them in their decision-making process. So getting back to the key core elements, the key theme of this book, or of this vlog that we're doing, where we're trying to pick up some morsels of knowledge. Anthony Robbins reminds us that it's very, very important that we raise our standards, we maintain our standards in order to live an extraordinary life, and not to drop our standards. So what we're alluding to here, what we were leading to, is we need to allow people into our lives, people into our social circles, who are going to help us raise our standards and keep our standards. And as my mother once told me, she goes, "Son, you're born into a world of compromise, where everybody expects everybody else to compromise and to change. But the challenge is there for you to sit and consider and to contemplate and to think about, by all means, incorporate new things into your world, incorporate new things into your family. But what we want you to do is we want you to hold on to and keep and pass on to into the future the standards that we hold for ourselves as a family, and the standards that have been passed down to us from other generations of good people who have come before us, generations who have our best interests at hand, generations who know the difference between right and wrong, generations who have lived harsh lives and have seen the consequences of people's actions, of people who don't follow and don't uphold and don't keep certain standards in their lives. And what we don't want to do is we don't want to see you or your family or future generations pay the price of being, I guess, too relaxed in the standards that we keep in our lives. I remember doing martial arts years ago, and my Uncle Andrew Rubis, was the teacher, was the sensei of the class, and he recently celebrated his 53rd anniversary of being a martial arts participant by being a martial arts teacher. And some people said that Uncle Andrew was a tough teacher in his days, and he was very much a disciplinarian. And the important thing to understand is that we need people in our lives like Uncle Andrew, because he is a man who is very binary in his view in life. He's a man who has a simple outlook. He knows the difference between what right and wrong, and he encourages and he teaches others to respect the differences between right and wrong, and to lift their standards in their lives wherever they can, so that they can live a better quality life and to not go through unnecessary pain and suffering that comes from not observing the simple rules of living a quality life. Uncle Andrew is a man who always lives by taking the road less travelled, doing the hard work, doing what's needed in order to build your skills, build your character, and become the best version you possibly can by doing the homework, by doing the tough yards, and by being humble and patient, knowing how important it is to respect the process and to submit to people of authority, people who can help you grow and develop, people who have been through what you're trying to get over and through, so that you can learn and make the most of it over time. So, as we say, it's important to find the right teachers in life, and hopefully those right teachers are a gift that come to you, and those right teachers are your parents, who really care about your growth and development, your teachers, your relatives, your leaders, your religious leaders. We all need spiritual guidance. We all need to have a spiritual father. We all need to have coaches in our lives that are going to bend us, stretch us, and get us to where we normally go to. Because if we take the easy road, we're never going to be able to get on the right path. And along the way, we're going to get distracted. Anthony Robbins is big on reminding us that we should love family and friends, for they are the people who are going to comfort us, for they are the people who are going to help us in our hour of need. They're the people who are going to support us. But he also warns us that what we don't need is we don't need to have too much support, too much nurturing, and too much comfort. What we actually need in our lives is we need people such as a peer group, or we need people who are going to be mentors, who are going to take us and are going to push us, cajole us, and force us to do the things that are uncomfortable so that we can grow and develop and become better and not just average. So to lift us, to help us lift our game in different areas of our lives, and it could be the one person or it could be a group of people, because at the end of the day we all end up becoming the mean average of the half dozen people that we hang out with, the half dozen people we spend most of our time with, the half dozen people that we follow on social media, the half dozen people that we look up to and want to be like one day. So we need to be very, very careful, I guess is the point that Anthony Robbins says, in terms of being selective and hard-nosed, in terms of making sure that we're picking people, that we're selecting people to partner with us in our lives for our growth and development, so that we can blossom, we can expand into the space that they can help us with, that they can identify with, that they have helped other people grow and expand into. Because there are some people who are going to, prune you and put you into a small pot to compress the room for your growth and development. There are people who are going to want to see you stay where you are and not grow and develop and not to become a better version of yourself. But this is where Anthony Robbins says that we need to fight the process, to fight averaging out and atrophy, fight entropy, because by going with the flow, by doing the things that make us comfortable, they're the things that are going to hold us back. And we all have a sweet spot in our life where we grow, develop, and really express who we are. And if we miss the boat, if we miss the bus on those occasions, then chances are we may never get an opportunity in our lives to ever do it again. So there you go, we've got a ute over there with a flag, even up here at Nelson Bay. It's just amazing. So what we're saying here is that we need to make sure that we don't miss out on our growth opportunity. We need to make sure that we don't miss out on our growth spurt. Just like children have growth spurts where they're just growing incrementally, and then all of a sudden they hit a certain time of their life where they double in size or grow exponentially overnight and become adults, so too people like you and I also have those opportunities in our life that we need to respect and we need to honour, and we need to allow those times of our life to take part and not to hinder them, so that we don't become a bonsai, we don't become a dwarf, we don't become a pruned version of who we're meant to be. By all means, we need to be pruned, there's no doubt about that, and good parenting revolves around establishing rules and limitations for children so that they have a channel for growth and development, and they don't just use all their energy playing and using all that energy on activities which may be pleasurable but are not profitable in terms of their growth and development and making them better and stronger and etching and deeply etching their character and teaching them the skills, the important skills that they need in order to live a fruitful and fulfilling life. Just so you're aware, I was here yesterday with my sister-in-law Elizabeth. We came down for a drink, and one of the guests of the hotel was mentioning that there was a dolphin which was in this little harbour here swimming around, so I'll just keep an eye out for it. Just because it was here yesterday doesn't mean it's going to be here today. Just like life, you know, there is a fate, and if it's here we'll see it today, but maybe the turn or the time to see it was yesterday, and God has a will for everything. So getting back to the topic here about raising our standards, as I said before, when I was growing up, I had lots of people in my life who took interest in my growth and development and reminded me and were on my case in terms of raising my standards. People, not only my mother and my father, but also my grandparents, my uncles, my aunts, my godfather, you name it, school teachers, even members of the public took interest to make sure that whilst we're growing up as young children, that we don't do things that we're going to regret later on in life. But these days, it's pretty hard. In fact, it's almost impossible as a third party to say anything about anybody's children, including teachers. Including teachers at school. Can't say anything about young Johnny for fear of their parents being inflamed and insulted that people don't see the greatness in Johnny. But at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, teachers, educators, our family members, people who surround us have experience, and they see lots and lots of people in their lifetime. And if you are a young student, or if you are doing things which are out of character or considered to be lowering of one's standard, then teachers know that it's an incremental process, just like growth and development is an incremental process. You do things step by step, and sooner or later you grow and develop and you become a bigger and better version of yourself. Death and decay, entropy and atrophy also occur in a sequential and an incremental process. And this is where adults are really, really good at providing guidance for young people, because they can see when you're making a mistake. they can see the first, second and third level consequences of your actions, things that you may not be able to see yourself, because as science informs us, it takes about 25 years or 30 years for the human brain to fully develop and to develop into an adult brain that is able to see holistically the impact of one's decisions and one's actions, to be able to see and to visualize and to consider and to weigh up the consequences, the first level, second and third level consequences that these decisions have on one's life. So whilst we can't see them ourselves as young people, an adult who has seen the outcomes of people going down the wrong path are able to see it a mile away and are able to warn us and put us on guard and tell us that what we're doing is not going to have a productive outcome, and in fact could be quite damaging to us and our relationships. And as I said before, when you're growing up as a young person, if you miss out on an opportunity to grow and develop, then chances are that opportunity may never quite present itself ever again. And even if it does present itself again, you may not see it because of any scotomas that you may have generated and developed, or you may not be in a position to do much about it because you're distracted or caught up with other things happening in your life at that particular point in time. When I was at IBM, I remember one of the philosophies within management at IBM, something that I guess is quite relevant today and is one of the things that I tell all young people. And back then at IBM, they used to say that if you haven't achieved the significant achievements, if you haven't reached a time in your life, if you haven't reached the time in your life and done the certain things, the milestones in your life by the age of 30, then chances are you never will. And the reason is that if you haven't gotten married, if you haven't started a family, if you haven't bought yourself a house, if you haven't advanced in your career to be managing people by the age of 30, the wise people at IBM would say that chances are it'll never happen to you, because what will happen is that other people who are younger than you will overtake you because they've made it a priority. They've made it imperative and important in their life to hit those milestones. And that's why we need to have plans, we need to have targets when we're growing up, and not to leave life just go and grow beyond us. We need to be part of life. We need to be listening to people and making sure that we're positioning ourselves to make the most of the opportunities as and when they present themselves, and not to let our priorities slip, not to let our standards fall away, because as we say, there is a time, a sweet spot to getting married. There is a sweet spot to working hard and gaining all the promotions in your life. There is a sweet spot for, getting into investments and to saving your money. And if you miss those opportunities, then things get harder and harder, because the economic cycle goes and moves and alternates from time to time. And you may miss 5 or you may miss 10 years, and those 5 or 10 years could be the time that you could have made the right decision and been able to leverage the right outcome to help yourself and your family to live a better, potentially better life. But there's no guarantees, as we say. It all depends, of course, on God's will. But if you haven't got plans, if you haven't got take action, then you can't test God's will to find out what He wants from you. And we learn very early in life that God wants everybody to be happy. God wants everybody to be successful. God wants everybody to be saved. But God also wants a few other things from us that the devil and Satan will work against, so that we don't get those things. So the things that we need to consider in order to live a fruitful life is that first and foremost we need to love, worship and honour God with everything we do, say and feel with all our heart, mind and soul. We need to thank God for the gifts that we have. We need to thank God for the miracles, both seen and unseen, that have got us to where we are today. Because there are things that have happened and there are things that have not happened which are there to help us, and to understand that God's delays are not necessarily God's denials. If God wills it, it will happen. But we need to be organised, we need to be planned, and we need to take bold action in order to test God's will and to see what God wants from us, and to understand that life, our life, has a fate. It may not happen today, it may not happen tomorrow, but it doesn't mean we stop knocking on doors. It doesn't mean we stop getting educated. It doesn't mean we stop trying. It doesn't mean we stop loving our children, our partners, our family, our parents. We need to keep on doing that because we need to trust the process. But first and foremost, we need to do everything. Everything that we do needs to be to honour God and to be God pleasing. So the question mark, the simple question that we need to ask ourselves at every decision point in our life is what I'm thinking, what I'm planning, what I'm doing going to get me closer or further from pleasing God? Is what I'm doing just to please myself, or is it to honour God with all my heart, mind and soul? Is it to teach me and help me learn God's love? Is it going to help me love my neighbour as I love myself, with the clue being you need to learn to love yourself? But we need to be humble. We first need to learn to love God. We first need to understand and appreciate God's love of give and take, of ebb and flow, and to understand that if it doesn't work today, it doesn't mean it's not going to work tomorrow. But we need to get up every day with a day one mentality and to live with positive expectancy, hoping, praying and working towards things that are going to be fruitful for our salvation, things that are going to add value to our knowledge, and things that are going to honour God in every single way, and not spend our time, not waste our time doing things that are just going to satisfy, that are just going to create pleasure for us, knowing that the important thing that for all of us is to first please God and then please our neighbour, and knowing and loving ourselves, and knowing that everything that we do has a purpose, and that purpose is to create value and not necessarily just to take, but to give, because the big man reminds us that the art of giving, or the art of living, is giving. So how do we raise our standards? The big man reminds us the first point that you should start from is to turn your shoulds into musts. Not just to talk about things, not just to plan things and to think about things, but to actually do things. And a lot of us don't take action because of fear, and that fear is the fear of the unknown. But Tony Robbins reminds us that most, if not all, fears that we have are irrational fears. They're just a figment of our imagination. They are fears that we've inherited from other people. They are stories that keep on getting replayed in our heads, that have been incorporated, that have been inherited from other people. And one thing that we mustn't do is we mustn't waste our life. We mustn't waste the opportunities that we have worrying and being paralysed by figments of our imagination, by fears that others have thrust upon us because of the wrong thinking that they have done in their lives themselves. Because we're all going to have a different life. We're all going to live a different past. We're all going to experience a different future. We're all going to have a different present. I am here, you're somewhere else. Even if you were here, even if we were joined at the hips, we're going to have a different experience, because we're going to be looking at things differently. We're going to have a different perspective. We're going to be obsessed. We're going to be focusing on things that are completely different. And that's how life is. That's the beauty of life. Just like these gentlemen here are fishing over here. What they're saying is they're going to change the angle. They're going to change their approach. They're going to continue fishing, but change where they're fishing from, and maybe change their bait just to test their fate. And that's the beauty of fishing. You just never know what's down there. But as we say, you've got to respect and you've got to trust the process. And fishing is something which is completely random to a certain extent. You know, you need to have your bait in the water. You've got to be in it to win it, as they say. And you need to be labouring day by day, moment by moment, in order to get the outcome that and activate the luck, what people call luck. But without activity, without action, without a vision, you're not going to have luck, and you're not going to achieve or manifest the things in your life that should come your way. You need to work at it. You need to do something. You need to position yourself. Anyway, thank you very much for taking the opportunity to join me on today's walk and talk, where we're up here at Port Stephens, and specifically today I'm at the Anchorage Marina. As you can see, it's so peaceful and it's so beautiful here, and of course it's expensive. But you know, these people here have lifted their standard, and in order for you to partake in the higher standard, you need to do something about it. You need to save some money, you need to work, and you need to invest in better coaches. You need to work on areas of your life that are going to have the biggest bang for the buck. And we need to turn our shoulds into musts. We need to simply take action. And as Anthony Robbins says, and as Anthony Robbins' mentor Jim Rohn used to say, being successful is really, really easy. But here's the trick. Being unsuccessful is even easier. So it's easy to achieve all the dreams that you have in your life, but it's even easier to not achieve them through lack of application, through lack of trying, through lack of doing. And we need to hold dear to our hearts all the standards that we have learnt over the years, and to work those standards and to keep those standards, because Anthony Robbins reminds us that the most important promises you'll ever make are not to your parents, not to your partner, not to your teachers, not to your grandparents, not to anybody else. But the most important promise that you'll ever get to make and keep are the promises to yourself. And that's why it's important to make promises and to keep promises and to maintain your relationship through prayer to God, and to test those promises, because those promises that you keep to yourself are the ones that are going to translate your life, the ones that are going to transform your life, the ones that are going to enable you to grow, develop, to change, to improve, and to become better positioned to take better decisions and to lift your standard even higher and higher. Because as we know, the art of learning is simply the attaching the unknown to the known. And the more you know, the more you're capable of knowing. The more you learn, the more capable you are of learning. The more you do, the more capable you are of doing. So we need to lift our standard. We need to maintain our standards. We need people, we need teachers, we need peers in our life who are not going to be there to keep us and make us comfortable and to tell us all the things we want to hear. But we need to have people in our lives that are going to help us make tough decisions. They are going to be honest with us. They're going to give us honest feedback in terms of where we think we are as opposed to where we really are, as opposed to us living a fantasy, thinking that we're popular, thinking that everybody loves us, by us being, a people pleaser. But what you actually really end up doing is, when you're trying to please other people, you're not pleasing yourself, and there is a dissonance, a cognitive dissonance that's happening, and you're not being satisfied, you're not being happy, because you know that all you're doing is ticking the box for other people, but you're not ticking the important box for yourself. Because if you're not growing and developing, if you're not raising and expressing your standards, if you're not doing things that are going to make you stronger and bolder, then you're on the road to decay. And just like the prodigal son, it's never too late for anybody to turn around and to fix and to repair their life, but the way you do it is through humility. And some people need to hit rock bottom before they can see the light, before they get, I guess, helped by divine intervention. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining me. It's been a beautiful, peaceful walk down here at Salamander Bay at Corlette, and I've given you an opportunity to experience this wonderful boutique resort called the Anchorage, and as I mentioned, it used to be called Peppers, but it is quite beautiful. We didn't get to see the dolphin swimming around the little harbour here, but there will come a time where we'll come back and hopefully he'll be here or she'll be here, but you're more than welcome to come and try and see the dolphin in the harbour yourself, and to do this walk, this peaceful, beautiful walk that I've just enjoyed over the past 40 minutes or so. So I'll continue to add vlog by vlog to my sub-series All That I've Learned from Anthony Robbins over the years, where I take morsels from the big man and I focus on it and I expand upon it, and we talk about things, and I add my personal story to it as well. I add my experience to it, where we can take it, use it, where we can live, learn and pass it on. And as I say, I think Anthony Robbins does need a fitting tribute to all the work that he's done. And as I say, he's the best of the best. He's a leader in his field, but by the same token, I too can also add to his field of expertise by taking the messages that he's been able to share and to contemporize them and to make them relevant with examples and experiences that we are living here in Australia, and to also use this backdrop to be able to highlight and overlay the message of empowerment with the beauty of this wonderful place that we live in. So get out and about, I guess, and raise your standards, because by you raising your standards, you're also influencing other people by becoming a beacon, by becoming a lighthouse of hope for other people to see and to understand and to appreciate and to respect. That growth and development comes through labour, and it comes through doing things rather than just talking about things. Anyway, we'll chat again. Wishing you all the best, and bye for now.